Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my YouTube channel. As we study the subject of bio, now our topic of discussion of component of the food of human, as the written here, the components of the human food here. The nutritional requirement of the human and the other animals are the relatively complex as compared to the plant. Plant have the simple food, but the human being and the other animal have the complex food. Like other animals, the nutrients used by the human include the carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acid, and the protein, minerals, vitamins, and beside these the nutrients, they also require the water. The carbohydrates are the basic source of the energy for all the animals. About the half of the 2 by 3 of the total calories every animals consume the daily for their carbohydrates. The glucose is the most often used for the carbohydrate for the energy. The other useful carbohydrates are the maltose, lactose, and the sucrose, like the starch. The carbohydrate contains on the zero point 0.4 kilocalories per gram. Human get carbohydrate from the foods like the bread, pastas, beans, potatoes, grains, rice, and the cereals. But the question here is that what is the carbohydrate? The carbohydrate are the most common source of the energy for the plants and the human being, as like the protein and the lipids is the vital building component for the body, but they can also be used for their energy. And now we discuss about the lipids after the carbohydrates. The lipids present in the food are composed by the fatty acid beyond to the glycerol. The fatty acid lipids may be the saturated or the unsaturated. Two kinds of the lipids. First, saturated, and the second is unsaturated. First of all, we discuss about the saturated fatty acid. Like the saturated fatty acid have all their carbon atoms bounded by the hydrogen atom. It means if the carbon atom bounded by the hydrogen, so it is called the saturated fatty acid. And unsaturated fatty acid mean if the carbon atom bounded by the other carbon atom. As we see that the fatty acid have the sum of their carbon atom with a double bonded in the place of the hydrogen atoms. Generally, the lipids contain the saturated fatty acids are the solid and on the room temperature. The lipids contain the unsaturated fatty acids are the liquid at the room temperature. For example, the butter is a fatty acid and contain the nearly 70% of the saturated and the 30% of the unsaturated fatty acid. On the other hand, the sunflower oil contain the nearly 75% unsaturated fatty acids, and the lipids are used to the form the membranes in the membrane sheets like the surrounding the neurons and the certain hormones. Lipids are also extremely used in the every energy process and the every energy sources. 1 grams of the lipids contain the 9 kilocalories of the energy. Important source of the lipids include the milk, butter, cheese, eggs, mutton, fish, mustard seeds, and the coconut and the dry fruits also. As we know, the question is that what is the role of the saturated fatty acid in the human body? If we discuss the saturated fatty acid can increase the person cholesterol level, and increase the cholesterol level may eventually result into the clon- clogging of the arteries and ultimately the heart disease like the cardiovascular disease occurs in this by the saturated or unsaturated fatty acids. We recall our topic as we read in this topic the component of the human food like the nucleic acid and the carbohydrate. After that, we discuss about the carbohydrate and what is the carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is the most common source of the energy, And lastly, we discuss about the lipids and their two kinds of the fatty acid and the saturated fatty acid and the unsaturated fatty acid. So our topic of today lesson is complete.